Staff Sergeant David Mitchell noticed the black SUV because it shouldn't have been there. Not at 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, not idling near the East Garden entrance, and definitely not with its engine running while everyone else had already departed for the day. Small details, the kind most people miss. But Mitchell had learned during his years of military service that small details kept people alive. The vehicle sat 30 meters from the main gate, close enough to look official, far enough to avoid immediate scrutiny. Diplomatic plates, tinted windows, nothing technically wrong, except Mitchell knew the schedule. He'd reviewed it that morning during the security briefing. No departures planned for Princess Charlotte until Thursday. He kept walking his patrol route, but his eyes stayed on that SUV. The driver sat motionless behind the wheel, too still. People waiting legitimately shifted in their seats, checked phones, adjusted mirrors. This driver looked frozen, like someone trying very hard to appear normal. Mitchell's radio crackled. Routine check-in from the north gate. He responded, kept moving, kept watching. The SUV's rear windows were darker than the front. Legal, but unusual for royal transport. Royal vehicles favored visibility for security reasons. This looked like something designed to hide what was inside. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to Crown Watch. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Now, back to what happened next. The afternoon sun hit the rear passenger window at an angle. For just a moment, the tint lightened enough to see through. Mitchell caught a glimpse of movement. Small, quick, then nothing. He slowed his pace, pretending to inspect the garden perimeter. His hand moved to his radio. Not yet. He needed to be sure. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. Mid-50s, well-dressed, confident posture. She wore palace staff credentials on a lanyard around her neck. Mitchell recognized the format, but couldn't read the name from this distance. She walked toward the rear passenger door, heels clicking on the pavement. Her movements were smooth, practiced, unhurried, like she belonged exactly where she was. Mitchell's training screamed at him. Something was off. He couldn't name it yet, but every instinct honed through multiple deployments overseas told him to pay attention. The woman opened the rear door, leaned inside, spoke to someone. Her voice was too low to hear. She straightened, closed the door without slamming it, returned to the driver's seat. The SUV didn't move. Mitchell altered his route, angling closer. He kept his expression neutral, his gait steady. Just another guard completing another patrol. Nothing unusual. But his eyes tracked every detail. The SUV's registration was current. The diplomatic plates legitimate. The parking location technically allowed. Everything looked proper on the surface. Except everything wasn't proper. The woman behind the wheel kept checking her watch. Every 20 seconds. Consistent. Mechanical. People checking time casually varied their rhythm. She didn't. Her eyes also moved to the rearview mirror too frequently. Not watching for traffic. Watching whoever sat in the back seat. Mitchell moved closer, pretending to examine the garden gate lock. Standard security inspection. He'd done it 1,000 times. But this time, his peripheral vision stayed locked on that SUV. 20 meters away now, close enough to see more details. The vehicle was too clean, freshly washed. Not unusual, except every other royal vehicle currently showed the light dust coating from yesterday's afternoon rain. This one gleamed. Someone had gone out of their way to make this vehicle look perfect. Too perfect. The rear window caught the light again. This time Mitchell saw more. A small figure. School uniform. The distinctive blue pattern he recognized immediately. Princess Charlotte wore that uniform. But Charlotte wasn't scheduled for any departures today. He'd checked. Double-checked. The daily briefing had been clear about the young royal's movements. Charlotte was meant to be at her afternoon activities inside the palace complex. So why was she sitting in an SUV near the East Garden exit? Mitchell's heartbeat accelerated. He kept his breathing steady, his expression unchanged. Years of training kicked in. Never reveal what you've noticed. Never telegraph your suspicions. He adjusted his route again, moving toward the vehicle maintenance checkpoint. It gave him a legitimate reason to pass directly by the SUV. 15 meters away, he could see the driver more clearly. Her jaw was tight, her shoulders rigid. She wore expensive perfume, the kind that carried on the breeze. Her hands gripped the steering wheel at precise 10 and 2 position. Textbook, but her knuckles were white. 10 meters. Mitchell slowed slightly, pulling out his phone as if checking a message. Standard behavior, nothing suspicious. His eyes lifted toward the SUV's rear window. The angle was better now. He could see the small figure more distinctly. School uniform. Dark hair pulled back. Charlotte's profile. She sat perfectly still. Too still for a child. Children fidgeted, moved, looked around. Charlotte stared straight ahead, hands folded in her lap, like she'd been told very specifically not to move, not to draw attention. Mitchell's stomach tightened. He'd seen this before during active duty. People under duress adopted that same frozen posture, afraid to act, afraid of consequences. He kept walking, kept his pace steady. 5 meters from the SUV now. He could hear the engine's low rumble. Then, Charlotte turned her head. Their eyes met through the tinted glass. Just for a second, maybe less. Her expression made Mitchell's blood run cold. Fear. Raw, unmistakable fear. She wasn't just sitting quietly. She was terrified. The driver noticed. Her head snapped around. Eyes finding Mitchell through the side mirror. Their gazes locked. She smiled. Polite. Professional. The smile of someone with nothing to hide. But her hand moved to the gear shift. She was preparing to leave. Mitchell had maybe 30 seconds to decide. Stop the vehicle based on instinct. Risk a diplomatic incident if he was wrong. Potentially derail his entire career. Or let it drive away. Trust that everything was legitimate. Ignore what every fiber of his being screamed was a child in danger. Charlotte moved. A tiny movement. Her hand lifted to her face, seemed to brush hair from her eyes. Except there was no hair in her eyes. Her hand moved deliberately. Fingers touched her earlobe. 2 light taps with her index finger. Brief pause. Then her hand dropped back to her lap. Mitchell's heart stopped. That signal. He knew that signal. Every Royal Guard knew that signal. It was taught during specialized training for protective details involving the royal children. A silent distress code. Something the children could use if they felt unsafe, but couldn't speak freely. The gesture looked natural, casual, easily missed. Unless you knew what to look for. Tap, tap, pause. The sequence was unmistakable. Princess Charlotte was signaling for help. The driver shifted into drive. The vehicle began to roll forward, slowly, not drawing attention. Just another palace car leaving after business concluded. Perfectly normal. Except nothing about this was normal. Mitchell made his decision in less than a second. His training said, follow protocol. Radio for authorization. Contact the command center. Wait for clearance. His instincts said, move now. Right now. Because in 30 seconds, that SUV would reach the gate, and once through it, Charlotte would be gone. He broke into a run. Stop the vehicle! His voice carried across the courtyard, authoritative, commanding. Royal protection. Stop the vehicle now. The SUV accelerated. Not dramatically, just a smooth increase in speed. The driver kept her movements controlled, professional, like she'd been expecting this, like she'd planned for it. Mitchell sprinted. The SUV was heading for the east gate, which stood open for scheduled departures. If she reached it, she'd be on public roads in seconds. Traffic, pedestrians. Stopping her would become infinitely more complicated. He angled his path, cutting toward the vehicle's trajectory. His hand went to his radio. Code yellow, East Garden. Unauthorized departure with royal passenger. Require immediate backup. The radio exploded with responses. Multiple voices, overlapping questions, urgent confirmations. Mitchell ignored them. He had one focus. That SUV, that child. 20 meters to intercept. 15. The vehicle picked up more speed. Stop! Final warning! Mitchell's voice rang out. The driver didn't stop. She aimed for the gate. 10 meters from freedom. Her face showed no emotion now. Just cold determination. Mitchell changed course, sprinting directly at the SUV's path. Risky, potentially suicidal, but it forced the driver to make a choice. Hit a royal guard or stop. She chose stop. The brakes engaged hard. The vehicle lurched. Tires squealed on pavement. Mitchell reached the driver's door in 3 strides. He yanked it open before the woman could engage the locks. Out of the vehicle, now! I have authorization, the woman said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. This is official business. Show me your authorization. She reached for her credentials. Mitchell's training kicked in. Never let them reach for anything. Never assume. His hand shot out, stopping her movement. Keep your hands visible. Who authorized this departure? This is highly irregular. The woman's tone shifted, taking on an edge. I'm acting under direct orders. You're interfering with... Charlotte, Mitchell called past her, his eyes finding the rear window. Princess Charlotte, are you all right? Silence. The child didn't respond, didn't move. The woman's smile returned, cold, unsatisfied. As you can see, everything is perfectly fine. The princess is simply tired. Now, if you'll excuse me... Mitchell didn't move. His body blocked the driver's door. Backup would arrive in less than a minute, but his focus stayed on that rear window, on Charlotte's frozen silhouette. Something was desperately wrong. He could feel it. Ma'am, I need to verify the princess's well-being. Please unlock the rear doors. Absolutely not. This vehicle is under my authority. Your interference is noted and will be reported to... Mitchell stopped listening. His eyes locked on the rear window. Charlotte had turned, pressing her small hand against the glass, her palm flat. Fingers spread. Then she did something that made Mitchell's decision final. She mouthed 2 words, slowly, deliberately, making sure he could read her lips through the tinted glass. Help me. What Mitchell did next would either save a child's life or end his career. He didn't hesitate. His baton came off his belt in one smooth motion. The driver saw it, lunged for the door lock button. Too slow. Mitchell's baton struck the rear passenger window. Not the center where glass was strongest. The corner, where tempered glass was designed to shatter. The window exploded. Safety glass cascaded inward, breaking into thousands of small cubes. Not sharp, not dangerous, but loud, undeniable. The sound echoed across the courtyard. Guards came running. Staff emerged from nearby buildings. Everyone stared. Mitchell reached through the broken window, flipped up the door lock, yanked the rear door open. Charlotte sat rigid in her seat, hands folded, eyes wide. Dried tears tracked down her cheeks. Fresh ones welled up. She looked at Mitchell, then at the driver, then back at Mitchell. It's okay, Mitchell said quietly. He kept his voice, gentle, calm. You're safe now. I've got you. Charlotte's composure cracked. Her small shoulders began to shake. She tried to hold it together, tried to maintain the perfect princess posture she'd been taught. But she was just a child, a terrified child who'd been told to stay quiet, sit still, and not cause problems. Can I... Her voice was barely a whisper. Can I please get out? Of course. Mitchell extended his hand, not grabbing, not forcing, just offering. Whenever you're ready. She took his hand. Her fingers were ice cold despite the warm afternoon. She climbed out of the vehicle slowly, carefully, like she expected someone to stop her at any moment. Once free of the SUV, she pressed close to Mitchell's side, not hugging him. Royal protocol didn't allow that, but standing near him, close enough to feel protected. The driver had gone very still. Her confident demeanor vanished, her face drained of color. She stared at the broken window, at Charlotte standing free, at the approaching backup guards. Reality set in. Whatever her plan had been, it was over. "I want my mum," Charlotte said softly. She looked up at Mitchell. "Please, I just want my mum." Mitchell's radio crackled. Command center. Multiple voices demanding status updates, explanations, confirmation of the princess's safety. He responded briefly, clearly. "Princess Charlotte secures. Situation contained. Require immediate presence of senior royal family member." He didn't mention that his career might be over. Didn't mention that breaking a window on an unauthorized stop could lead to disciplinary action. Didn't mention the political nightmare this might create if he'd misread the situation. None of that mattered, because Charlotte stood beside him, safe, no longer trapped behind tinted glass with someone who'd made her desperate enough to signal for help. 3 more guards arrived, then 5, then 10. The courtyard filled with personnel. Someone from command, someone from palace administration, everyone talking at once, demanding explanations, trying to understand what happened. Mitchell ignored them all. His focus stayed on Charlotte, on keeping her calm, on making sure she knew she was protected. Captain Richard Wells pushed through the crowd. Senior guard commander, Mitchell's direct superior. His expression was unreadable. He took in the scene, the broken window, the stunned driver. Charlotte pressed against Mitchell's side. Wells's eyes met Mitchell's. "Report. Brief." "Unauthorized departure attempt, sir." Princess Charlotte signaled distress. "Subject refused to comply with security stop. I acted to secure the royal passenger." Wells's jaw tightened. He looked at Charlotte. "Your Royal Highness, are you hurt?" Charlotte shook her head. "No, sir, I'm not hurt. I just want my mum. She's being contacted. She's on her way." Wells's voice softened slightly. Then his gaze shifted to the driver. "Who are you? Who authorized this movement?" The woman had recovered some composure. She straightened, meeting Wells's eyes. "My credentials are valid. This was sanctioned business. This guard overreacted to a routine." "The princess signaled distress," Mitchell interrupted. His voice stayed, level professional. "I observed the coded gesture. I observed her mouth. Help me," through the window. "Those facts are undisputed." The woman's face hardened. A child's imagination. She was tired, emotional, possibly confused. "This entire incident is a gross overreaction to—" "I want to speak to my mother," Charlotte said. Her voice was small but clear. "Now, please." Wells nodded. He gestured to 2 guards. "Escort Her Royal Highness to the family wing. Alert Princess Catherine of her daughter's location. No one speaks to the princess without parental presence." He turned back to the driver. "You! Don't move. Don't speak. Inspector Chen from Metropolitan Police is en route." The woman's confidence flickered. "This is palace business. Metropolitan Police have no—" "You attempted to remove a minor royal from palace grounds without authorization," Wells said coldly. "That's a criminal matter. Inspector Chen will determine exactly what charges apply." Mitchell watched Charlotte being led away, 2 guards flanking her like protective shadows. She glanced back once, caught his eye, gave the smallest nod. "Thank you." Then she disappeared through a doorway, heading toward safety, toward her mother, toward people she trusted. Mitchell turned back to find Wells studying him. The captain's expression hadn't changed, still unreadable. Mitchell prepared himself. This was where the consequences began. Unauthorized window destruction, damage to palace property, diplomatic incident creation, The list would be long. "Sergeant Mitchell," Wells said quietly, "wait here. Don't speak to anyone. Don't make any statements. The princess's parents will want to hear directly from you." He paused. "And Mitchell? If you're wrong about this, you're finished." Mitchell nodded. "Understood, sir." But he wasn't wrong. He'd seen Charlotte's terror, seen her desperate signal, seen her mouth those two words through the glass. "Help me." Whatever was happening here, whatever political nightmare this created, Charlotte was safe. That's what mattered. That's all that mattered. What Mitchell didn't know yet was that the driver's credentials would lead investigators to someone very close to the royal family. Someone with access, someone with authority, someone nobody suspected. The truth, when it came out, would shake the palace to its foundations. But for now, Mitchell stood in the courtyard, surrounded by broken glass, and waited. 20 minutes passed. Mitchell stayed exactly where Wells had ordered. Other guards secured the SUV, photographed the scene, took statements from witnesses who'd seen the incident. The driver sat in the front seat, silent now, staring straight ahead. Her earlier confidence had evaporated. She knew something Mitchell didn't yet understand. She knew who was coming. A black sedan pulled through the east gate, not rushing, deliberate, official. Princess Catherine emerged from the rear passenger seat before the vehicle fully stopped. Her face was composed, but Mitchell had been trained to read micro-expressions. The tension in her jaw, the way her hands clenched briefly before smoothing her dress. The mother's fear barely contained beneath royal composure. Captain Wells intercepted her, spoke quietly. Catherine listened without interrupting, her eyes moving to the SUV, to the shattered window, to Mitchell standing at attention. She nodded once, said something Mitchell couldn't hear, then walked directly toward him. "Staff Sergeant Mitchell." Her voice carried authority, but also something else. Gratitude mixed with barely controlled rage, not at him, at whoever had put her daughter in that vehicle. "Your Royal Highness," Mitchell maintained formal posture. "Charlotte told me what happened. She said you saw her signal. She said you came for her." Catherine's eyes held his. "Is that accurate?" "Yes, ma'am. I observed the princess in what appeared to be an unauthorized departure. She displayed the emergency distress signal. I acted to secure her safety." "The window?" Catherine glanced at the shattered glass. "That was necessary?" The driver refused to stop, refused to allow verification of the princess's well-being. The princess mouthed, "Help me," through the glass. "At that point, ma'am, I made the assessment that immediate action was required." Catherine was quiet for a moment. Her eyes moved back to the SUV, to the driver sitting rigid in the front seat. "That woman, do you know who she is?" "No, ma'am. She claimed to have authorization, wouldn't provide details." "Her name is Margaret Hendricks. She's been palace staff for 8 years. Impeccable record. Multiple commendations." Catherine's voice dropped lower. "She reports directly to Queen Camilla's household." The words hung in the air. Mitchell's mind raced through implications. Camilla's household. That explained the confidence, the authority, the expectation that no one would question her actions. It also raised a far more disturbing question. Had someone in Camilla's circle decided to remove Charlotte from palace grounds without parental notification? "Charlotte said she was told this was a special event," Catherine continued. Her voice stayed level, but anger simmered beneath. "An afternoon garden party, something the Queen had arranged. Charlotte didn't question it because it came through official channels. She got in the vehicle willingly." Mitchell's stomach dropped. This wasn't a random incident. This was calculated, planned. Someone had used official protocol to manipulate a child into compliance. "When did she realize something was wrong?" Mitchell asked, then caught himself. He had no authority to ask questions. "Apologies, ma'am. That's not my—" "No, it's fine." Catherine cut him off. She realized when the vehicle didn't turn toward the gardens. Hendricks told her there'd been a change of plans, that they needed to pick something up first. Charlotte asked questions. Hendricks told her to sit quietly and stop being difficult. That's when Charlotte got frightened. She tried to use her phone, Mitchell said quietly. It wasn't a question. He'd seen enough of these situations to know the pattern. Catherine nodded. Hendricks took it. Said phones weren't allowed at the event. Protocol. Charlotte didn't have her protection officer because this was supposed to be an internal palace movement. Someone made very sure she'd be alone with Hendricks. A chill ran down Mitchell's spine. The planning involved the attention to detail, the careful manipulation of protocols to isolate a child. This wasn't opportunistic. This was deliberate. Inspector Sarah Chen arrived with 3 Metropolitan Police officers. She was late 40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She'd handled sensitive palace investigations before. Mitchell had worked with her during a security breach 2 years ago. She knew how to balance royal discretion with investigative necessity. Catherine turned to her. Inspector Chen, thank you for coming so quickly. Your Royal Highness? Chen's greeting was brief, professional. Her eyes were already scanning the scene, cataloguing details. I understand we have an attempted unauthorized removal of a minor royal. That's the preliminary assessment, Catherine said. I want a full investigation. I want to know who authorized this, who planned it, and what the intended destination was. And I want to know today. Chen nodded. She approached Hendricks, who still sat motionless in the driver's seat. Ms. Hendricks, I'm Inspector Chen, Metropolitan Police. I need you to step out of the vehicle and accompany these officers. Hendricks didn't move, didn't speak, just stared straight ahead. Ms. Hendricks, Chen repeated. Her voice hardened slightly. This can proceed cooperatively or otherwise. Your choice. Finally, Hendricks turned her head. Her expression was strange. Not defiant, not frightened, resigned. Like someone who'd known this outcome was inevitable, but had proceeded anyway. I want my solicitor, Hendricks said quietly. I'm not answering any questions without legal representation. That's your right. Chen gestured to the officers. Take her to the station. Notify her representative. Standard procedures. As the officers escorted Hendricks away, Catherine's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression shifted, hardened. Camila wants to speak with me, immediately, in her private office. Mitchell caught the implication. Not a request, a summons. From someone who clearly already knew what had happened and was moving to control the narrative. Would you like me to accompany you, ma'am? Captain Wells asked. No. Catherine's tone was ice. I'll handle this myself, but I want Sergeant Mitchell to remain available. I suspect we'll need his testimony. She looked at Mitchell. Thank you for protecting my daughter. Whatever else happens, please know that William and I are grateful. She left before Mitchell could respond. The courtyard felt suddenly colder. Wells turned to Mitchell, his expression grave. You understand what just happened? Wells asked quietly. I think so, sir. Hendricks doesn't act alone. She's too smart for that. If she attempted this, someone higher up either ordered it or gave tacit approval. And given whose household she works for. Wells let the implication hang. Mitchell had already reached that conclusion, but hearing his commanding officer state it aloud made it real. Someone in Queen Camilla's immediate circle had orchestrated the removal of Princess Charlotte from palace grounds. The question wasn't just who, it was why. Sir, permission to speak freely? Wells nodded. What possible reason would anyone have to remove Charlotte like that? She's a child. She's not in line for succession ahead of her father or brother. She's not politically valuable. What's the motive? Wells was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, Mitchell, but I've served in this palace for 23 years. I've seen power plays, political maneuvering, family tensions. This feels different, more personal. Someone wanted Charlotte specifically, isolated, under their control, even if just temporarily. To send a message, Mitchell said slowly. The pieces were falling into place. To Catherine, to William, to show them that their children can be reached, can be taken, that no one is truly safe. Wells's expression confirmed Mitchell's theory. That's my assessment. But proving it, that's going to be nearly impossible, especially if the person behind this has enough authority to make evidence disappear. Mitchell thought about Charlotte's terrified face through that window, about her frozen posture, about her desperate signal. Someone had deliberately frightened a child to prove a point, to establish dominance, to remind the younger royals who really held power in the palace. What happens now, sir? Now we wait. Catherine will confront Camilla. Either Camilla will have a perfectly reasonable explanation that makes all of this look like a misunderstanding, or she'll deflect blame onto Hendricks. Either way, the investigation will become complicated. Political pressure will mount. You'll likely be called to give formal testimony. I'm prepared for that, sir. Wells studied him. Are you? Because testifying against someone in Camilla's circle means making enemies, powerful enemies. Your career prospects could be significantly impacted. Mitchell met his gaze steadily. I saw what I saw, sir. Charlotte signaled distress. She asked for help. Everything else is secondary. A slight smile crossed Wells's face. Good answer. Now let's hope it's enough. If you're finding this story as gripping as we are, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Crown Watch. We uncover these hidden palace stories every single day. Drop a comment. Would you have broken that window or waited for authorization? Now, here's what happened when Catherine confronted Camilla. Catherine walked through the Mauve palace corridors with measured steps, not rushing, not revealing the fury burning beneath her composed exterior. Staff members she passed noticed nothing unusual, just the Princess of Wales moving between appointments. Perfectly normal. But Catherine's mind raced. Charlotte's tearful recounting of events, the calculated manipulation, the careful removal of all safety measures, the use of official channels to bypass standard protections. Someone had studied the protocols, found the gaps, exploited them with surgical precision, and that someone reported to Camilla. Catherine reached the Queen's private office. The door stood slightly ajar. An invitation, or a trap. Catherine pushed it open without knocking. Royal protocol could wait. Camilla sat at her desk, reviewing papers. She looked up as Catherine entered, her expression perfectly calibrated, concerned, sympathetic, confused. Catherine, I've just heard the most disturbing news. Is Charlotte all right? She's traumatized, Catherine kept her voice level. But physically unharmed, no thanks to Margaret Hendricks. Camilla's brow furrowed. I'm still trying to understand what happened. Hendricks is one of my most trusted staff members. I can't imagine what would possess her to... Stop! Catherine's word cut through the room like a blade. We both know Hendricks doesn't act without direction. She's been with your household for 8 years. She follows orders. So whose orders was she following today? I have no idea what you're implying. I'm implying that someone orchestrated the removal of my 9-year-old daughter from palace grounds without authorization. Someone used official channels to make it appear legitimate. Someone with enough access to manipulate protocols. Catherine took a step closer. Someone in your household. Camilla set down her papers with the deliberate care. Catherine, I understand you're upset. Any mother would be. But making accusations without evidence is dangerous. Hendricks may have acted alone. Perhaps she had a mental health crisis. Perhaps she misunderstood her instructions. There are numerous possible explanations. Charlotte said she was told this was your event, your garden party, your arrangement. Then Hendricks lied to the child. Used my name without authorization. That's why this is so shocking. One of my own staff members betraying my trust, using my authority for her own purposes. Camilla's voice carried exactly the right notes of betrayal and confusion. I'm as disturbed by this as you are. Catherine watched her, studied the micro-expressions, the slight tension around Camilla's eyes, the way her hands rested too carefully on the desk, the prepared quality of her responses. This woman had known this conversation was coming, had rehearsed her answers. Charlotte will give a full statement to Metropolitan Police, Catherine said quietly. Every detail, everything Hendrik said, everything that happened. If your name appears anywhere in that statement, beyond Hendrik's using it falsely, we will know. Of course. I want the truth as much as you do. Hendricks will be terminated immediately. I'll personally ensure she faces whatever legal consequences are appropriate. How convenient. Your employee, your problem, to all neatly contained. Camilla's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. What exactly are you suggesting, Catherine? I'm suggesting that if anyone in this palace ever comes near my children again, without explicit permission from William or myself, there will be consequences. Royal consequences. The kind that can't be managed with careful statements and convenient scapegoats. Is that a threat? It's a promise. The two women stared at each other. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Two very different kinds of power facing off. Camilla's was institutional, established, backed by years of careful political positioning. Catherine's was maternal, fierce, and absolutely unwilling to compromise. Your daughter is safe, Camilla said finally. Her voice had cooled several degrees. That's what matters. I hope we can all move past this unfortunate incident. Move past it? Catherine's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Someone tried to take my child. I will never move past that, and neither will William. She turned and left before Camilla could respond. The door closed with a soft click. Definitive. Final. Catherine walked back through the corridors, her composure intact until she reached the family wing. Then she allowed herself to breathe, to feel the shaking in her hands, to acknowledge the terror that had gripped her when that call came. Your daughter, unauthorized departure, distress signal. Charlotte was in her room, changed out of her school uniform, wrapped in her favorite blanket. She looked small, younger than her years. When she saw Catherine, fresh tears welled up. Mummy. Catherine crossed the room, pulled her daughter close. Royal protocol forgotten. Just a mother holding her frightened child. I've got you, Catherine whispered. You're safe now. I promise. I was so scared. She kept saying everything was fine, but it wasn't fine. And I couldn't call you, and I didn't know where we were going, and... Charlotte's words tumbled out between sobs. Shh. I know. But you did exactly right. You remembered your training. You signaled for help. And the guard saw you. You were so brave. Sergeant Mitchell. He broke the window. I heard the glass, and I thought... I don't know what I thought. But then he opened the door, and I could get out. Catherine held her daughter tighter. Sergeant Mitchell. A name she'd remember. A debt she'd repay. He'd seen what others might have missed. Acted when others might have hesitated. Protected her child when the system's careful protocols had been weaponized against her. We'll make sure nothing like this ever happens again, Catherine said firmly. I promise you, Charlotte. Never again. But even as she made that promise, Catherine knew the truth. Camilla had shown her hand today, shown that she was willing to use children as leverage, willing to exploit any vulnerability, willing to push boundaries to establish dominance. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Prince William arrived at the palace within the hour. He'd been at a charity event in London when Catherine called. No explanation given over the phone. Just 3 words. Charlotte, come now. Mitchell was still in the courtyard, when William's vehicle pulled through the gate. The prince emerged looking composed, but Mitchell recognized the tension in his movements. The quick stride, the set of his shoulders, a father responding to threat. Captain Wells intercepted him, delivered a brief report. William listened without interrupting, his expression darkening with each detail. Then his eyes found Mitchell. "You're the guard who stopped the vehicle?" "Yes, sir. Staff Sergeant David Mitchell." William crossed the distance between them. "Catherine told me what you did, that you saw Charlotte's signal, that you acted immediately." "I did what was necessary, sir." "You broke protocol, damaged palace property, created a diplomatic incident." William's voice was flat, unreadable. Mitchell kept his posture straight. "Yes, sir. I accept full responsibility for—" "Thank God you did." William's expression finally shifted, relief mixed with gratitude. "If you'd waited for authorization, if you'd followed proper channels, my daughter would be gone. So thank you, from both of us. Genuinely." Mitchell didn't know how to respond. He'd expected consequences, not gratitude. William's phone buzzed before Mitchell could find words. The prince glanced at the screen, and his expression hardened further. "That's Inspector Chen. They've found something in Hendricks' communications. Phone records show 3 calls this morning from Camilla's private office. There are also texts to an untraceable burner phone mentioning the package and delivery window. Someone planned this weeks in advance." Mitchell's stomach tightened. The premeditation, the careful coordination. This wasn't impulse. This was calculated. "Charlotte's protection detail was also reassigned at the last minute," William continued. "Legitimate authorization through official channels. That left her vulnerable during the exact window Hendricks needed. Someone inside the palace coordinated all of this." "What was the destination, sir?" "A private estate 40 minutes outside London, owned by a shell corporation. We're tracing ownership now, but these structures are designed to hide identities." William's jaw clenched. "My daughter was being taken somewhere specific. For a specific purpose. We just don't know what yet." The implications hung in the air. Charlotte hadn't been grabbed randomly. She'd been targeted, selected, removed using carefully exploited protocols. Mitchell thought about her frozen posture in that SUV. Her desperate signal. How close she'd come to disappearing. "You'll be required to give formal testimony tomorrow," William said. "Palace inquiry with legal counsel and Metropolitan Police. Hendricks will be there with her lawyer. Expect them to challenge everything. Your observations, your judgment, your credibility. Stay calm. Stick to facts." "Understood, sir." William left, and Mitchell was sent home. But sleep didn't come. His mind kept replaying Charlotte's face through that glass. The way her small voice had whispered, "Help me." The trust in her eyes when he'd opened that door. The next morning, Mitchell arrived at the palace in full dress uniform. The inquiry room was intimidating. 7 officials behind a long table. Palace legal counsel, Metropolitan Police representatives, royal household administrators, and Prince William seated at the far end as family representative. Hendricks sat with her lawyer at a separate table. She looked composed, professional. Her lawyer was expensive, very expensive. Someone was funding top-tier legal defense. Mitchell recounted the incident again. Every detail, every observation. His testimony remained consistent with previous statements. The officials listened carefully, taking notes. Then Hendricks's lawyer stood. "Sergeant Mitchell, you claim Princess Charlotte signaled distress, but isn't it true you interpreted this signal from a significant distance, through tinted glass?" "I was approximately 8 meters away. The vehicle was stationary. The distress gesture is designed to be recognizable at distance. Children make many gestures, touch their faces frequently. You saw what you expected to see." "I saw a trained emergency signal. I also saw her mouth Help me. That's not ambiguous. You claim to read lips through tinted glass. Isn't it possible you misinterpreted? No. She looked directly at me, formed the words clearly. There was no misinterpretation. The lawyer shifted tactics. You broke palace property, damaged an official vehicle, escalated a situation that could have been resolved through proper channels. Isn't it true your approach to security has always been somewhat impulsive? This was character assassination, trying to paint him as reckless. Mitchell kept his voice steady. I assessed an immediate threat to a royal child. I acted to neutralize that threat. Every decision was based on observable facts and trained judgment. Trained judgment that led you to destroy property and physically stop an authorized staff member. Hendricks was not authorized. That's been established. Has it? The lawyer smiled slightly. Or has it simply been convenient to deny authorization after the fact? William leaned forward. His voice was controlled, but the fury underneath unmistakable. Counselor, are you suggesting we're lying about our own daughter's security protocols? My daughter signaled for help, Sergeant Mitchell responded. Without his action, Charlotte would have been taken to an unknown location, against her will. Those are facts. Unless you're prepared to argue that kidnapping is acceptable when performed by palace staff? The room went silent. The lawyer's confidence evaporated. He sat down. Inspector Chen spoke next, her voice crisp and professional. For the record, Margaret Hendricks has been charged with attempted abduction of a minor, violation of security protocols, and conspiracy to commit felony offences. The investigation into her co-conspirators is ongoing. Sergeant Mitchell's actions are not under review. This inquiry is to establish facts for legal proceedings. Mitchell felt relief wash through him. Not under review. His testimony was being accepted, not challenged. The evidence supported his account. The inquiry continued for another hour, but the tone had shifted. Questions became routine, procedural. Charlotte's own statement corroborated everything Mitchell had reported. Medical examination showed no physical injuries, but the psychologist's report documented acute stress response, consistent with a child who'd experienced fear and felt trapped. When the inquiry concluded, William approached Mitchell privately in the corridor. That lawyer was paid by Camilla's legal fund, William said quietly. We traced it. She's protecting Hendricks, which means she's protecting herself. Will there be consequences for the Queen? Politically, it's complicated. Legally, we're building a case, but the evidence provides plausible deniability. However, William's expression hardened. Catherine and I have made our position clear. Camilla's access to our children is now permanently restricted. She's not to be alone with them, not to arrange events, not to have any role in their schedules or security. It's not a legal sanction, but it's effective. And Charlotte, sir? Recovering. She's resilient, but she's frightened in ways she wasn't before. She doesn't trust easily now, questions everything. William's voice dropped. They took her sense of safety. That's what I can't forgive. We're approaching the final moments of this incredible story. If you've stayed with us this long, make sure you're subscribed to Crown Watch. Drop a comment. How would you have handled this situation? Now here's how everything was resolved. 3 days after the inquiry, Mitchell received a summons to Princess Anne's office. Not Catherine or William. Anne. The Princess Royal had a reputation for being direct, uncompromising, and fiercely protective of royal protocols when they mattered, and utterly dismissive of them when they didn't. She stood when Mitchell entered. Sergeant Mitchell, sit. He sat. Anne studied him for a long moment. I've read every report about the incident with my grandniece. I've reviewed your service record. I've spoken with Captain Wells. I want to hear your version directly. Mitchell recounted the story one more time. Anne listened without interrupting. When he finished, she nodded slowly. You broke a window? Yes, ma'am. Damaged palace property? Yes, ma'am. Created what could have been a significant diplomatic incident if you'd been wrong? Yes, ma'am. But you weren't wrong. You saw a child in danger. You acted. You saved her. Anne leaned back. Do you know why I asked to speak with you? No, ma'am. Because in my experience, the palace has two kinds of people. Those who follow rules because they're told to, and those who understand why the rules exist in the first place. The first kind are useful. The second kind are essential. You're the second kind. Mitchell didn't know how to respond. Hendricks has been dismissed and charged, Anne continued. She'll likely face prison time. The burner phone has been traced to a purchase made by someone in Camilla's household, though proving direct connection is proving difficult. The private estate was owned through 6 layers of shell corporations, but we finally traced it to someone with close ties to Camilla's family. None of this will become public. The palace will issue a statement about a former staff member facing charges. Vague, careful, protecting the institution. I understand, ma'am. Do you? Because what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. Camilla didn't directly order this. We can't prove she did, but she created an environment where her staff believed such actions would be approved, where loyalty to her meant acting against other members of the family, where children became acceptable targets in political maneuvering. That culture came from the top. Mitchell absorbed this. The careful distance, the plausible deniability, the way powerful people insulated themselves from consequences while still achieving their goals. Charlotte is being given additional security training, Anne said. All the young royals are. Different distress signals, different protocols. We're also reviewing which staff members have access to their schedules and movements. The system failed. We're fixing it. That's good to hear, ma'am. Anne stood. You won't be officially commended. This incident officially didn't happen the way it actually happened, but unofficially, from everyone who matters, you have our gratitude. Catherine asked me to tell you that Charlotte speaks about you often. She calls you the guard who saw me. She means that literally. You saw her when she needed to be seen. Mitchell felt his throat tighten. I'm glad she's safe. She's safe because you acted. Remember that when the nightmares come. And they will come. Incidents like this stay with you. If you need support, we have resources. Use them. Mitchell left Anne's office feeling strangely hollow. He'd done everything right. Charlotte was safe. Justice was being served. But the victory felt incomplete. Camilla would face no public consequences. The truth would stay buried. The palace machine would grind forward, protecting its image. 2 weeks later, Mitchell was on regular patrol when he saw Charlotte in the garden. She was with her mother, laughing at something, looking like any normal child. Catherine noticed Mitchell, said something to Charlotte, who looked up. Their eyes met across the garden. Charlotte smiled, a real smile. She raised her hand in a small wave. Mitchell nodded back, professional but warm. Catherine mouthed 2 words. Thank you. Mitchell returned to his patrol. That moment, brief as it was, settled something inside him. Charlotte was laughing again, playing, being a child. That's what mattered. Not official commendations or public recognition. Just that small wave and genuine smile. Captain Wells found him later that day. You've been reassigned, effective immediately. You'll be working directly with the Young Royals Protection Detail, specifically Charlotte's detail. Catherine and William requested you personally. Mitchell blinked. That's a significant promotion, sir. It's recognition. They trust you. Charlotte trusts you. That matters more than any formal rank. The weeks turned into months. Mitchell became a constant, steady presence in Charlotte's security detail. She never asked him about that day, never mentioned the SUV or the broken window, but sometimes, when she was nervous or uncertain, she'd look for him, make sure he was there, and when she saw him, Her shoulders would relax slightly. Safe. Hendricks was convicted of attempted abduction and conspiracy. She received 8 years, still claiming she'd acted alone, still protecting whoever had truly orchestrated the plan. She'd been well compensated for her silence. Mitchell had no doubt about that. Camilla's household was restructured. Staff members were reassigned. New protocols implemented. But Camilla herself faced no formal consequences. She remained queen consort, continued her duties, maintained her public image. The palace protected its own. But within the family, everything had changed. Catherine and William's children were never alone with Camilla, never attended events she organized. The relationship was cordial in public, frozen in private. Camilla had demonstrated what she was capable of. The younger royals would never forget. True duty isn't about following orders blindly. It's about knowing when rules matter less than doing what's right. Mitchell learned that on a Tuesday afternoon when he chose to trust a child's desperate signal over protocol and procedure. He'd broken a window, damaged property, and risked his career. And he'd do it again without hesitation. Because some things matter more than rules. Some things matter more than careers. Some things matter more than consequences. Protecting a frightened child, seeing her when she needed to be seen, acting when action was required, that's what duty really means. If this story showed you something about royal guards you didn't know, make sure you're subscribed to Crown Watch. We share these untold stories from inside the palace every single day. Drop a comment. Would you have broken that window, or would you have waited for authorization? Let us know what you think. We'll see you in the next one.